Well, the 2019 MLB season is now officially halfway over following the All-Star game in Cleveland this week. And if the playoffs started today, this is what the postseason bracket would look like. Welcome to this episode of the Low Budget Breakdown. I'm Tim Hackett here with GoodHacks. This is what it would look like right now, but we're going to look ahead into the future, and I'll tell you what I think the playoff picture is going to look like when all is said and done. So let's check it out. So right now we've got the Yankees and the Dodgers, the top teams in each league. The Rays hosting the Indians in the wild card in the American League side, and the Nationals hosting the Phillies in the wild card on the National League side. But here's what I think the postseason bracket is going to look like when all is said and done. You'll notice there aren't too many changes. Still got Houston and Minnesota in the first round on the American League side, and the Yankees are going to run away with the American League. But the wild card looks a little bit different. The Red Sox out of the postseason picture right now. Can't forget about them. The reigning World Series champs are going to make a late season push and get the top wild card spot hosting division rival Tampa Bay. On the National League side, Atlanta is going to run away with the National League East like they already have been doing so far. But Milwaukee is going to come back in, beat out the Chicago Cubs for the Central Division title. The Dodgers, the cream of the crop, obviously right now in the National League, they're not going anywhere. That's probably maybe even the best team in the league, certainly in the National League. They've got the top spot. And then the wild card game looks a little bit different. The Nationals I've still got edging out for the wild card, for the first wild card spot, but the Colorado Rockies are my dark horse team to make a late season push into the National League picture. Now, what does that mean? That means the Cubs are out of the postseason entirely, despite maybe another MVP-style campaign, all-star certainly from Javier Baez. But there are so many teams in the National League that could sneak into this picture. Obviously, you've got the Phillies in there right now. The big offseason acquisitions with Harper and Real Muto adding into a crop of talented players that already includes Rhys Hoskins. They're out of the picture entirely. All the things the Cardinals did, they're out of the picture entirely. Some other hot young teams like the Diamondbacks or the Padres, they're out of the picture entirely. The Rockies, with that late season push with the offense keyed by Arenado and Blackmon, are going to be the other team that makes it into the wild card. But it doesn't matter because they're going to be facing the Nationals, even though they have the worst bullpen ERA, still a top 5 starter ERA, and all you need is one good starter in a wild card game. And if I could pick any starter in the entire game of baseball to get me through a one-game playoff, it's going to be Max Scherzer, and that's who the Nationals are going to use in that wild card game. And I don't care who the Rockies throw against him. Herman Marquez, maybe. That's not going to be good enough to get them through the Nationals, even if they don't have a very good bullpen. The Nationals do kind of have a closer already in Sean Doolittle, but they haven't really found anybody to get them to there. So all this talk about trading for Giants relievers to help out a team, somebody's going to trade for Will Smith maybe. I don't think the Nationals need Will Smith. I think the Nationals need a guy like Tony Watson. So if they pick up Tony Watson from the Giants bullpen, maybe that's the piece they need. But regardless, I think Max Scherzer is good enough to get them through the Rockies or whoever they end up facing in that wild card game. The Nationals are going to be the team that moves on. In the American League wild card game, I think the Rays are an amazing story this year. I love what they're doing with the opener, but I don't care what kind of gimmicks, if you want to call it that they throw out in the wild card game against Boston. If the Red Sox get hot to even make it into the postseason, like I think they will, I think they'll be on the better foot, if you will. They're going to have the edge against Tampa Bay. They're going to throw Chris Sale in a wild card game, I'm sure, and I don't know that the Rays can keep up with it even if they make a trade. Now, the Red Sox, everything hinges on what they do with their pitching staff. They've been linked to a starting pitcher for a long time. Because it was announced this week, they're going to try Nathan Eovaldi as their closer. I think that is a fantastic idea, and I think that's going to work. Best case scenario, you could even roll Chris Sale for 6 innings and then Nathan Eovaldi for the last 3, and you've got yourself a fantastic game plan. Even if the Rays use an opener, or even if they get another Cy Young level performance from Blake Snell or maybe even Charlie Morton in a wild card game, I think the Red Sox are the better team overall, and they're going to advance in the American League wild card. Now let's go to the other divisional games. Houston against Minnesota, I think, is going to be the best divisional series. You've got a tremendous offense with the Twins against a tremendous pitching staff in the Astros. But I think the Astros have the edge. Like we've talked about already on GoodHacks, pitching against defense, we talked about that in the American League Central with the Twins against the Indians. But I think the Astros have a much better pitching staff than the Indians do. Case in point, the Indians aren't even in the playoffs right now, if you go with my prediction. And I think the Astros rotation with Verlander, Cole, Wade Miley throwing in their bullpen like Ryan Presley and Ken Giles, that's better. That's going to offset all of the offensive firepower that the Twins have. On the other side, Atlanta and Milwaukee, another really good series. Milwaukee's been linked to a starting pitcher for a long time as well. If they go out and get a guy like Madison Bumgarner, watch out. But I think that the Braves still have enough young talent with their guys, Acuna, Albies, Swanson, etc. Then a starting pitcher like Mike Soroka, the season that he's had, I think that could be a sneaky pick to win this series. I think if this is how it stacks up, a lot of people will take Milwaukee, but don't be surprised if Atlanta comes through with the series win. Now, we mentioned the Dodgers already here against Washington. This could be a really good series if the Nationals starters hold up their end of the bargain. But like we said, even if they go out and get a guy like Tony Watson, I don't think this bullpen holds up. And the strength of the Dodgers starting rotation, not to mention their ridiculous offense, is going to be more than enough to see them through this series. Give me Walker Buehler and the rest of the Dodgers pitching staff all day. And speaking of good offenses, how about the Yankees? If the Yankees are going to play their good friends, let's say, the Boston Red Sox, it's going to be a good series. It almost always is when these two teams played. That was a divisional series matchup last year with the Red Sox winning. It's going to be the other way this year. I think the Yankees are the team to beat in the American League. And even if the Rays do win this series, I don't think they beat the Yankees either. The Yankees have owned the Rays so far this year. Masahiro Tanaka destroys them, and they're pretty good against the Red Sox so far this year. Not too many teams the Yankees haven't been good against. So now we've got our Final Four. Let's stick in the American League for right now. The great pitching of the Astros against the great offense of the Yankees. Tough to determine here. I'm going to go a little bit different from usual. I'm going to go with Houston over the Yankees and a little bit of an upset pick. I still think, same logic as before, you give me the 1-2 punch of Verlander and Garrett Cole, I think that is enough to get you through the Yankees' great bullpen and their great offense. The Yankees can go out and get another starter, like maybe a Marcus Stroman from the Blue Jays, who they've been connected to for a little while. Maybe that puts the Yankees over the edge, but I don't trust the rest of that starting rotation to beat out a rotation that has Verlander and Cole and a guy that's having as good of a season as Wade Miley. On the other side, we're going to have to go with the predicted choice here. The Dodgers beat out the Atlanta Braves to win the National League. I think that might be a really good series. The Braves will be back here, but they're not ready just yet. The Dodgers are going to win that. And this sets up the same World Series that we saw a couple of years ago, the Dodgers against the Houston Astros. This time around, it's going to be a little bit different. Third time's the charm for the Dodgers. This year, they win the World Series, taking out Houston in 6 games. We'll see kind of what kind of MVP level performance you get from your presumed NL MVP. Cody Bellinger was not very good in the postseason last year. I think you'll see him come through this year. But my eyes are on a guy like Alex Verdugo, who I think could be a sneaky good MVP type player for the Dodgers. If they get to a postseason run like this, you're going to know about Bellinger. You're going to know about a guy like Max Muncy. We've already talked about their pitching staff. But I look for a guy like Verdugo maybe to kind of fly under the radar, hit about 280 for them with a couple of key home runs like we've already seen from him so far this year. He might be my choice for World Series MVP or maybe at least Conference Finals MVP. We'll see when we get there. But my pick for the 2019 World Series, the Dodgers over the Astros.